So let's start kind of big picture here. Give me. I saw you tweeted out, your latest mock. I found it to be very interesting. At the 7th spot, which is where the Lions are picking, you have either New England, Denver, or Washington making a trade to move up to get quarterback Justin Fields. Let's start there. Give us the explanation for why you think, there's going to be a trade made in that spot.
Yeah, I really do think it starts with Detroit. Detroit's one of the lowest ranked teams according to any power rankings you look at right now. Win totals, they're only a half win better than what the Houston Texans are expecting next year, and that's still very much a dumpster fire of a franchise right now in terms of what they're going to do at quarterback and so forth. But I do think the Detroit Lions are in a prime position to trade back, whether that's with Denver, New England, Washington. I'd even throw Chicago into the mix. If Chicago wants to make a big power play to get an upgrade over Andy Dalton, they could do that. It's just going to cost them a ton. But one of those 4 teams, in my opinion, is going to trade up for a quarterback, whether that's Justin Fields, Trey Lance, or Mac Jones, because they're in, again, a prime position to go make a drastic upgrade and try and make a play. Denver, I think it would be absolutely malpractice if they don't get aggressive and try and grab a quarterback, because to go from 9-4, say with Atlanta, or 9-7 with Detroit, it's not going to cost them nearly as much as people think. Maybe a first and a third, maybe a future second and a third if they go from 9-7. That is worth it to get an upgrade like Justin Fields over Drew Lock.
Give me your feel for which team is the most likely in that spot out of the 3 you listed to make that type of deal.
I think it is Denver, and I think the biggest reason for that is not necessarily they're in the worst spot from a quarterback position standpoint, but more so they have to give up the least amount. They're going to have to give up the least amount to go from 9-7 if Detroit is interested in trading back. New England would probably have to give up a lot more. Washington would obviously have to give up a lot more because they're sitting further back in the draft. Now, it comes down to this, though. If New England offers 2 future first-round picks, a future second, maybe Stephon Gilmore, maybe Detroit's more interested in going back with New England than they are with Denver. It's going to be a bidding war. It's going to be a bidding war for 4. It's going to be a bidding war for 9. Any team looking to trade up, you're going to have to give up a lot of ransom because there's multiple teams interested.
Looking at the top of the draft, Austin, Trevor Lawrence you have going 1, Zach Wilson going 2. Then you have Trey Lance going number 3 to the 49ers. Why do you have Trey Lance in that spot over Mac Jones, who's the betting favorite right now to go to San Francisco?
Yeah, that's a tough one, man. I do think that right now Mac Jones, you're seeing him at -400. It's almost kind of foolish to put anyone there at 3, but I do think if it's going to be anyone else, if it's not Mac Jones, who I don't think is even a top 4 quarterback in this class, I think it is Trey Lance. From what you've heard from reports, it sounds like it's a 2-horse race. They traded up from 12-3, locked into Mac Jones. But over the past, 4 weeks or whatever it was, talking to Trey Lance, talking to coaches and those types of things, he has grown on their radar. Has he grown enough to take over Mac Jones? Maybe. But I think right now the favorite is Mac Jones for a reason. Trey Lance would be the dark horse pick there.
Why do you like Trey Lance? Give us a breakdown for those who probably haven't watched a whole lot of North Dakota State football over the last couple of years. And obviously he only played 1 game this past season.
Yeah, Trey Lance, he is still largely a projection. Even in 2019, he only averaged 18.3 dropbacks per game, then had a pretty shoddy game against Central Arkansas in that showcase in 2020. There's a lot to be concerned about, the experience he has, the level of competition he's played, all that stuff. But you have to remember how much better he got over the course of 2019 at 19 years old in such a big winning program like North Dakota State. Everyone wants to hate on North Dakota State being an FCS team. It is a winning culture. You talk to his teammate Dylan Radins, who's on my podcast recently. He's like, every single year, North Dakota State is expected to win the FCS. That is, regardless of the level of competition, pressure. And that's something that Trey Lance handled really well at 19 years old. Apparently, he's brilliant on the whiteboard, has one of the biggest arms in the class, if not the biggest arm in the class. Does he need to get more accurate? Does he need more experience to get against good competition? Absolutely. But when you're trying to chase the ceiling at the quarterback position, I think Trey Lance is one of the better projects you can invest in.
Explain to me the fall or the perceived fall of Justin Fields' draft stock.
I wish I could. It's wild to me that the league is lower on him than the media, because I do think Justin Fields is the number 3 overall quarterback prospect in this class. And the gap between him and Zach Wilson is not as big as people are projecting it. I think there's opportunities to think about Zach Wilson as quarterback 3 and Justin Fields. I think some people will have those boards differently. I think that Justin Fields will be the number 2 quarterback in the draft, according to some people in this draft. So I do think Justin Fields, his fall doesn't make a ton of sense to me. I'm blown away by it, surprised by it. Some teams don't like that he holds on to the football, which I think can be coached in the NFL. His mechanics get ripped apart. He has epilepsy. He was held back in 8th grade. People are searching for reasons to drop him draft boards. I would still pick him as early as 3, maybe even 2.
Austin Gale joining us here on our progressive guest line. He's over at Pro Football Focus. You can find him on Twitter at PFF_Austin Gale. So you kind of just indicated there your top quarterback rankings. If I'm reading it right, you have Trevor Lawrence 1, Zach Wilson 2, Fields 3. Do you have Trey Lance then 4, Mac Jones 5, or you said Mac Jones is not in your top 5? I forget what you said at the time.
No, yeah, Trey Lance would be 4, and then Mac Jones coming in at 5. If you look at PFF's draft board, it's kind of where I'd have it as well. 1, 2, 3, Lawrence, Wilson, Fields, and then at 10 overall is Trey Lance, and at 13 overall is Mac Jones. All top 15 players, due in large part to positional value. If you remove positional value, you probably move Mac Jones down quite a bit. But all 5 of those players, when you think about where you want to spend draft capital because of how valuable the position is, top 15 players in this draft.
What do you like about Zach Wilson? Obviously, he had this one amazing season at BYU. He's likely the pick at 2 by the Jets. Do you think Wilson of the Jets is a good fit? And what type of player are the Jets getting?
Yeah, Zach Wilson of the Jets is a good fit. I mean, I think there's arguments to be made about Justin Fields potentially being a better option for the Jets, but he's still a guy with crazy arm talent, crazy athleticism, really good off structure stuff, and also very accurate. He's very accurate with the football this past year with BYU. I do think that you're getting a guy that, similar to Trey Lance, is a projection, but you've seen more of it. You've seen more of Zach Wilson hitting that high side of variance, him hitting his kind of ceiling projection at the collegiate level. You can only play the players on, the teams on your schedule. A lot of people hate on him for not playing top competition, but when you look at what he did and the throws he made at BYU, you can grade those independent of competition. You can see what he can do throwing down the football field, his ball placement, these types of things. So I do think you're getting a player that is still a projection, does have some level of bust potential, will have to, change a lot about his game when he gets to the NFL, still has so many tools, not necessarily so much to not fail, but so much to where you have to bet on the kid being a very good quarterback and one that could be a good quarterback in the NFL.
Staying with your mock, Austin, you have Kyle Pitts going 4 to the Atlanta Falcons. How seriously did you weigh them maybe trading out of the 4 spot or even, of course, taking a quarterback there instead of Pitts?
Yeah, I do not think the Atlanta Falcons are taking a quarterback at number 4 overall. You do not restructure Matt Ryan's contract to a point where you're pot committed to him for the next 2 years if you're looking to take a quarterback at 4. It doesn't make any sense. You could have not restructured that contract in the middle of free agency. They are in a very bad cap situation. Could they be in a better position if they went for a rookie quarterback on a rookie contract? Yes, but the cap situation they're in with Matt Ryan and how it's structured puts them in a very bad position to ever get rid of him over the next 2 seasons. So you don't want the player you're picking at 4 to be forced to sit the pine for 2 years. You lose a lot of the value in having a rookie quarterback on a rookie contract because you're not going to be able to build around him. You're not going to be able to add in free agency. The Atlanta Falcons are in a window. They're in a window, whether they like it or not, to win a Super Bowl with Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Grady Jarrett, Jake Matthews, these high-paid players. They need to go get that. So I think staying put at 4, grabbing Kyle Pitts is where they're lean. Where I would probably lean is trading back, maybe going back down to 9, grabbing a future first and a future second to pick up Patrick Surtain or J.C. Horn at 9, and then another player obviously the next year. But if they like Kyle Pitts more than that option, I think they could lock into him as well.
A lot of people think the Bengals should go offensive line at number 5 instead of wide receiver. You have them taking Jamar Chase. What's your thought process there?
Yeah, it's interesting. The biggest thing I'll say before I dive into why I picked them, I do think they can't go wrong. I mean, they're in a very good spot. They have a quarterback they believe in. A lot of the league believes in. You saw an anonymous scout or anonymous executive say he'd take Joe Burrow over Trevor Lawrence 100 times out of 100. The league is high on Joe Burrow. The league likes Joe Burrow, and I know Cincinnati does as well. They are not in a position to need to take a quarterback in this spot. So, with that being said, what is best for Joe Burrow's development and what is best for the Cincinnati Bengals offense? Both Penei Sewell and Jamar Chase, and if Kyle Pitts is there, all 3 are really, really good options. I think why I lean Jamar Chase is that if Jamar Chase hits his ceiling projection in the NFL, becomes a top 5, top 8 receiver in the NFL, that, in my opinion, is more valuable than a top 5, top 8 offensive tackle Sewell could be. Because being elite at the wide receiver position, I think, has a better impact, higher impact on wins than being elite at the offensive tackle position. You don't need to be elite along the offensive line. You just need to be good. You can't be bad against any position. You need to be average to above average along the offensive line. Where you need to be elite, where you need to have game-changing talents is the receiver position. You see that with the Chiefs and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, the Bills with Stephon Diggs. You see that with Saints, Michael Thomas, like these teams that win consistently in addition to having good quarterback play, have elite receivers, high-end receivers, and I think that's what the Bengals want.
Austin Gale from Pro Football Focus is our guest here on the Jake Asman Show, talking all things NFL draft, just one day away from a event that every football fan is certainly excited about. So as far as the defensive prospects in this class, in your latest mock, Austin, you have Patrick Surtain going number 8 to Carolina. Say he doesn't go there, though. I mean, is there a legit possibility that we don't see a defensive prospect get taken until maybe at number 10 with the Cowboys?
Absolutely. I mean, it's just not a blue chip defensive class. I think the only legit blue chip talent on the defense side of the ball in this class is Micah Parsons, and he's got more off-field concerns than a lot of prospects in this class. A lot of reasons to, let's not call them concerns, let's say question marks. A lot of reasons to have question marks about what he's done off the football field over the course of the past 5 years. And I think the teams are going to ask those question marks. And through all the player evaluation I've done and through talking to scouts and talking to other media, the number one thing the NFL hates and NFL decision makers hate is question marks. Whether that's about injuries, off-field, criminal record, these different things, they hate question marks. They want answers. They want periods. They want exclamation points with their prospects. They'd rather invest in a guy that they know through and through than question marks at certain things. So I do think Micah Parsons could fall outside the top 10. And all defensive players, I think the first pick, and I do think the latest is 10. I think Dallas is locking into a defensive player. But an option that Mike Brenner, my podcast co-host, outlined in his latest mock draft, team could come up and look for a wide receiver to get ahead of the Giants, like Arizona maybe coming up for Jalen Waddle, and the Dallas Cowboys trade down in what is obviously not a great defensive class. You could trade back down to 16 and then pick up a player there.
We know about the big 3 at wide receiver in this class, but how many total wide receivers, Austin, do you think go in the first round?
I think the over-under is set at around 5.5. I think you could see over. Obviously, I think the big 3 do go inside potentially the top 12 picks. And then after that, you could see Rashad Bateman slip into the first round, Elijah Moore slip into the first round. That obviously takes it out to 5. And then from there, Terrace Marshall Jr., Kadarius Toney, all those guys could end up in the first round. So I do think that over 5.5 is where I'd lean. A lot of teams need receiver help, and this is a very, very good wide receiver class.
How about the running back class? Do you think there are guys that are deserving of being picked in round 1?
I don't know if there's any running back that's been drafted over the past few years that's deserving of a top 32 pick with the 5th-year option. I will say I like Najee Harris. I like Travis Etienne. I like Javonte Williams. All 3 of those backs I'd be comfortable taking maybe at the back end of the second, top of the third, because of the market value of the position. It's one of the lowest paid positions in the NFL. Throw PFF WAR and wins above replacement and on-field value out the window if you want. Market value. You can get the highest paid running back in the NFL for the same price. You can get Trey Henderson, the 20th ranked edge defender in the NFL. That's a fact. That's market value. That's where it is. Why would you spend first-round picks on players that you can get their highest-paid ones, the best ones theoretically, for cheaper than you can get the 20th ranked edge defender in the NFL? Why? It makes no sense. Why would you spend that draft capital on players you can invest with cap space if you actually want to get a position?
Austin, I got 30 seconds left, so to follow up on that point, the Jets, let's say, use them as an example. They have the 34th pick in the second round. If Etienne or Najee Harris, someone slips and they're there, do you feel comfortable using a second-round pick, a early second-round pick on a running back?
Potentially. I mean, again, you need a path to the football field. It depends who's on the board, obviously. It could be in a position where they'd like to do that. But, where I look to more as like interior offensive line. Like, this is not a team that, necessarily needs to pass on interior offensive line depth. I think there's a lot of interior offensive linemen that would do better, more positive things for the Jets rushing attack than Travis Etienne, Najee Harris, or Javonte Williams. You add a Wyatt Davis, Creed Humphrey, Quinn Miners, even Alex Leatherwood could kick into guard at the next level. There's more to be said and more to be done about having that level of depth along the offensive line, or even starting caliber players at 45 than adding a running back.
Thanks for watching the full YouTube video. If you like what you saw, then please subscribe to my page for more content. Thank you.